Hey, everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar with Joby Ford from the Bronx. So he's got a bunch of projects going on, but most well known for being the guitar player from the Bronx. He's also with Mariachi El Bronx, The Drips, and Pounded by the Surf were two side projects of his. Super talented guy, great guitar player, a lot of fun to talk to. I want to thank our mutual friend, Evil Joe Barisi, for hooking us up. Thanks, Joe. Joe produced the Bronx's upcoming album called Bronx VI. Absolutely amazing, and you hear his mark all over it. Make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com/subscribe to subscribe to the show. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and that little icon, little emoji that looks like a bell. That helps us get recommended, and thanks for your support. All right, quickly about Joby. Grew up in Colorado. He's got an interesting background. Got a baseball scholarship to college in Kansas, left after 2 years to play guitar in LA, then graduated with an art degree in '96. Comes from a musical family. Joby and both of his siblings were all required to study two instruments, piano being one of them. Joby studied classical piano for 9 years and cello for 3, and he's in a punk band. How cool is that? He discovered the guitar when he was a senior in high school, and unlike piano or cello, where he's classically trained, he's completely self-taught on guitar. After college, he worked as a graphic designer for the Yellow Pages and eventually landed a job as the art director for a small independent record label called Vagrant Records. He's also done tons of album covers for loads of bands, and you can check out his website at jobyjford, jobyjford.com. He's got really good work on there, photographs, just all creative stuff, album covers. You've done some really good covers, man. And also, if you want to reach out to Joby and have him work with you to design a cover, there's a contact form. He's a founding member of the band The Bronx since 2002, as well as the band's spin-off group, which is, I honestly didn't know what to expect. I freaking love Mariachi El Bronx.
You either like it or you don't.
It's like so much fun when you got horns and shit. Mariachi El Bronx 10 years ago, along with two other side projects, as I mentioned, Pounded by the Surf, which is great surf music, and The Drips. Again, the Bronx's new record is Bronx VI, and the record was mixed and produced by Evil Joe Barisi. Joby's married. He and his wife have two lovely kids, and they do California shit as a family. That's the best line I've ever read. Motocross, skateboarding, and surfing, and they're currently living in an RV and loving it. And man, every time I talk to the guy, he's out in this beautiful environment, so it ain't so bad.
It's a great time of year to be outside.
Yeah, I bet, man. Very cool. Dude, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
My pleasure, man.
Hopefully the internet powers that be will let us get us to the finish line on this one.
Awesome connection. I don't think there'll be any problems at all, man.
Awesome.
Tell me about your family as far as being musical, because you guys were required to study two instruments. Like, what was what were your parents' philosophy behind that, and what was their background musically?
Not much musically. I think each of them knew a handful of chords on guitar. And they were big. I remember growing up and I would go through the records. They were big kind of 70s sort of singer-songwriter stuff. Like they like Peter, Paul and Mary, Bob Dylan, Joan Baez, like just the kind of the go-tos of that time, freedom rock or whatever you want to call it. Or not freedom rock, just sort of the storytelling stuff. And then they got really into classical music. And so growing up, that was predominantly what I heard was, Mozart, Brahms, Rachmaninoff, Beethoven, Bach, you go down the list.
Yeah.
And we had this big fucking stereo system that took up like the whole wall. And back in the 80s, there was, I don't know if you remember Time Life books. Remember how they would have like these series of things that you could buy, like Time Magazine and Life Magazine got together. And so Time Life books, they put out these big collections of vinyl. I
remember that. Yeah.
And so we subscribed to that and we got that. So we would play just like these records just constantly, through this big old, I guess it would be called a hi-fi, big old tube amplifier, just shaking this stuff, with all these different, like the London Philharmonic doing whatever, or, these just classic timeless recordings. And that was like a big kind of a a thing, because there wasn't a lot of like classical radio at that time. But then classical radio stations started coming in, so that's like pretty much predominantly what we listened to. So that was like me hearing rock and roll radio for the first time. Was, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Like, that sounds cool, you know, playing like all of the training, and like, it's hard doing classical music. It's not easy, and learning like all of the theory and all the compositions, and it's not something that comes overnight.
Hell no.
You know, and so I hated it. Every second of it, I hated it. It just wasn't fun. I didn't want to do it. Like, it was just learning all of this stuff that other people wrote. I couldn't stand it. And then introducing cello into that mix. I don't know if you've ever learned or ever heard anybody learn a stringed instrument.
I played an orchestra.
That's what it sounds like in hell. My God, you know, they're hard.
Yeah,
you know,
very
it's
hard.
like it's a very difficult instrument to make sound good, and to get one that even sounds good, it costs, you know, an exorbitant amount of money. You know, and so when it came, I started playing guitar when I was a senior in high school. A friend of mine, Scott Tackett, his family had 2 acoustic guitars, you know, and the action was, you know, probably an inch off the 12th fret, you know, but we would just sit there and pound chords. And, you know, he was a really good player. He would do all the cool fancy blues riffs, and he'd be like, play a G, A, D chord progression or something like that. And I would do that. And literally I would just pound through this guitar. You know, your forearm muscle is just, you know, I didn't know anything about intonation or setup or anything. It was just, you know, we're playing guitar, you know, my fingers are killing me. And all of a sudden, like, that to me, the guitar became everything that the piano wasn't, or the cello wasn't. I didn't have anybody teaching me or telling me what to do, or telling me that my technique was wrong, or having to learn these, you know, covers that other people did. And it's like, I could just make up and do whatever I wanted. And that to me was really exciting, because up until that point, music to me was learning what everybody else that had come before me had done.
Yeah.
And then, you know, in high school, that was, and even in junior high, like, I started getting turned on to rock and roll at a pretty early age, because of tape trading. You'll remember tape trading,
sure,
but
of course.
Like some people don't even know what that was. And that was the best way and the cheapest way to get like music, especially underground music too. I would meet friends at summer camp, and we would mail each other these tapes of, you know, these punk bands from California, or like this hardcore from New York City or whatever. And there was this kind of this underground kind of world. And then, you know, it was just in like 5th generation copy, just, you know. And my folks got me this, the dual cassette recorder. Remember that? So you could put a cassette on the other side and dupe it to another one, switch the sides. And all of a sudden, you know, you'd be carrying around those big old Case Logic cases full of these dub tapes, you know, you write out the side and everything. And there's sometimes, you know, the real guys that were really big into records, like, they would make mixtapes. You know, that was crazy. And then I got into punk probably during skateboarding. Skateboarding entered my life in, you know, the 80s, with Pal Peralta, Bones Brigade, the big explosion. And, you know, I got subscriptions to, you know, Trans World Skateboarding and Thrasher magazine. And that was kind of my porthole into like this, I guess at the time, probably like a California lifestyle, you know, or kind of, you know, Texas was pretty big on skateboarding too, but it predominantly happened out here in Southern California, the start of it. You know, that's where all the skate parks were, all the old pros, you know, it all kind of originated here. And along with skateboarding, it kind of, punk music kind of sort of became the soundtrack to that. And I remember Thrasher magazine used to put these comps out called Skate Rock. And it would have all these underground bands on it, like DI, JFA, DOA, like all the, and it was just kind of like the sampling of all these bands. And I would go out and I'd ask my friends if they had this tape or that tape by this, and I would start collecting all of this stuff, and kind of started going to shows. Then there was punk scenes kind of erupting everywhere, where it was like, in the basement of a church, and like to get in, you had to like bring a can of food or something. I don't remember what it was, but and then the bands would be selling their tapes, or we would go to like a skate park and a band would play on a ramp, or you could kind of get like, some of the skate shops would sell local punk bands tapes, and that was kind of how the two worlds kind of interacted. And so that's probably, to me, I would listen to some of those bands and go, chugga, 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 chugga. Okay, I can kind of play guitar like this. This is something I can do,
Still on that acoustic, or did you get an electric by then?
I didn't get an electric until I borrowed one until I was 21. But I would plug in because I had a Washburn. My grandfather bought me this Washburn, and I got a pickup put in it. I saved up my money.
Oh, cool. And
so I would plug it into amps, and I was like, oh, that sounds kind of like these punk, things I'm listening to. And then my friend had electric guitar and like, a PV Bandit. And so I would just spend hours on that thing. And once distortion kind of enters the picture, guitar kind of blooms, to me.
How were your folks cool with you switching over to punk and getting out of you were old enough at that point? Did they let go, or were they still like, this is not good?
I think they kind of saw what was happening. Like electric guitar kicks a lot more ass than the cello.
Yeah. Sorry, but yeah.
And so it was kind of going that way, and it's something that I would just spend hours doing every day. It was just plunking around, making up stuff, and not having to have any sort of structure. And it was really fun, and I think it kept me out of a lot of trouble, in those early years, and became something that it was really I identified with, and it made sense. And I kind of looking back on it now, like learning piano and having just the all your hands and fingers have to work independently and sometimes together in order to even play the fucking instrument.
Yeah.
That has really come over into like the way I play guitar, where there's a lot of hammering and things like that. It's a very percussive way that I play. And I think that all stems from just playing piano. That's how I learned, and that's how my hands move,
And that's probably how you think musically as well.
Independently, yes.
Yeah.
This hand over here is doing some stuff, and this hand's doing some stuff over here, and it's like I can't. It drives me crazy up and down strumming, or
right.
down, 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 down. It's I gotta make something happen over here. Some sort of rhythmic change. Yeah. I think that's probably what I really loved about learning kind of how to play mariachi, because that's the exact same thing. It's all percussive. It's like playing drums on an instrument,
We're going to talk about that because I love that. I mean, that is such an amazing project. I just think it's so cool how you guys did that. But tell me about, this is unusual that you got a scholarship to play baseball in Kansas, because, I mean, when you're good in one thing, it's hard enough, but here you are in two things, good in music and in sports. That's not real common. It's a rare combination. What was the decision-making process for you to get the scholarship and then say, no, this is not where my head is or my heart is at?
No, I did get a scholarship. I wouldn't play it. But I just the thing I liked about baseball was I really enjoyed playing it. I didn't care. I never have like a favorite team, or I don't go to baseball games. I enjoy minor league games from time to time, but I don't follow it. I don't watch it. There's nothing, I'm just not into it, but I really loved, actually playing the game.
That's interesting.
And then I tell you, there was one other dude on my team that was an art major, and that was it. And it was like, and we were the only two athletes in the art program.
Yeah, I'm sure.
There's not a lot of crossover.
Right.
And it was, I remember like not really fitting in with either one of them, where like, you know, you have the art school students or, you know, crazy hair or whatever, you know, and then like all the jocks, you know, that's like, you know, like you paint, you know, or
yeah,
like,
yeah, totally. It's
weirdo.
a macho sort of thing. And yeah. The
So
two opposites.
it was kind of, you know, I think hard to find kind of where I fit in with the things that, you know, I was into, you know, and kind of, you know, there wasn't a lot of people that were kind of doing the same thing I was doing. And so I think like, you know, starting a band, you know, was a really healthy way to, you know, be part of something, have friends, you know, people that were like-minded and doing the same thing, you know, because I was kind of an outsider in the art community because I was a jock.
Yeah.
And a sort of a outsider in the sports community because, you know, I was an art dude. So music kind of seemed to fill in the space for me with that.
What was the trigger though that made you say, hey, I got a baseball, we're done, I need to just go back and play guitar and stuff?
Eligibility, 4 years.
Okay.
So it's like, but I was towards the end, I just didn't like it. It was really stressful. I remember that because everybody on the team's trying to get to the next level to go pro, and it's like they're, you know, everybody's pissed that, you know, they have to bunt instead of, you know, hit, you know, or they want to, you know what I mean? And it's like nobody played as a team. And it was like everybody was kind of looking out for number one. And it was just, I just remember like it just everybody like not liking each other on the team, you know?
Yeah.
And
which sucks.
And so, yeah. Well, I mean, it was just everybody was kind of looking out for not everybody. There's still a couple of people that I talk to, but for the most part, that's kind of the vibe that it was. And there was not really any camaraderie or any sort of thing other than me. You know, everybody was riding the me motorcycle on that team. Me.
So it was an easy decision for you to go back to LA and play.
Yeah, totally.
Study. Okay, cool. Where did the art interest come from? Was that something you had all along, or
you want it like, so when you go to college, you're a very lucky person if you know what you want to do and study. To me,
totally.
And probably 90% of the athletes have no clue what they want to do. They just want to play sports. And I fell into that category. And so they're like, all right, well, you know, because you have to be eligible to play. You have to, you can't just be flunk everything and play. You have to have a certain average. And so what they do is they put you in a sociology major.
Oh, that's because it's relatively
easy.
Yeah,
they say it's one of the easier things, or an English major. I think I got bounced around, you know, that like the team had this lady that would be like, okay, well, if you switch majors and go to like sociology, you'll be able to play this season, or, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really have any, I didn't really want to do anything. I hated all my classes. I just, as long as I could play baseball, I was fine. And then a friend of mine had, I'm trying to remember the name of this program. It was called MS Paint. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, Microsoft Paint. I sure do.
Yes. And he had a file on a floppy disk of a fake ID from like Oklahoma or something that one of his friends meticulously built with pixels, you know, because that is
wild.
Kind of and so I would sit there and I was like, you know, I had a computer. I was like, let me give me that file. I want a fake ID. And so I would change names and I started selling them for like $40.
Wow.
And so that's how I got into, I also got in a lot of trouble doing that. And so once Photoshop hit and I had access to that, you know, I would scan these IDs and change the names. And then we would go to, because back in those days they were laminated. Yes, and so we would go to the photo booth in the mall, and which was absolutely set up for fake IDs, because you could change like the backdrop, like blue or red. They had these curtains in them. And so we would take that, and then you would peel off the backing of the photo, and then you get the laminating stuff, and then you'd iron over the towel, and that would laminate everything, and slam it in a book and leave it there like for an hour or so, then kind of trim everything up. But we figured out if you had those wallets that had kind of the see-through, remember the wallets?
Yeah.
There's see-through window that you can
Totally.
show your ID.
Yep.
And so it's like, if if it's a dark club, it's like, yeah, whatever. It looks kind of right. I mean, looking back on it, they're terrible, but at the time, it got us in. So that's when I really started going to concerts, because most places were 21 and over to see a band, if they served alcohol, so I was able to go see a lot of bands and see a lot of shows and different things that I wouldn't normally be able to go to and buy alcohol. So that's kind of where it started. When I transferred schools, I did the same thing. And I was, because it was kind of my side hustle. And the second news got out that there was a dude that made fake IDs, it was just.
You were like probably everybody's friend immediately.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, immediately. And a lot of them, friends that you don't want to be friends with. But
yeah, right.
It's,
sure.
I ended up getting in trouble, and, the school, not a counselor, dean, is that what I want to say, the college, he was pretty cool. He was just like, you can go to jail for this. And I was like, yeah. And so I think I had to do some community service around the school or something like that. But that's how I got into design. And so I was like, man, I really love this, and I just would go into the computer lab and just start messing around with all this stuff. And then I switched my degree to be an art major, and started taking all of painting, screen printing, typesetting, photo classes, like everything. Because, in those days you had to develop film, and, learn how to do the technology wasn't there that it is now.
Sure.
The desktop publishing is, you had to learn how to burn film and how to set up different inks and presses and all of these different things that are now obsolete. Pretty much.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it was a skill set back then, and I loved it. I still really love it. I love the problem solving of like, how are we going to, get this image to do whatever, the band or this logo or the shirt design or, whatever, vehicle wraps. I've done a couple of those. Like, it's just, I love just kind of being able to look at something. It's just like writing a song to me. It's like doing an album cover. It's like, people are like, well, how do you know when it's done? I go, well, you want to look at it again, and it's like, well, how do you know when a song's done? I go, well, when you want to listen to it again.
Right. And you've done most of the Bronx's covers and a lot of the merch.
Every single one of them.
Yeah, that's great. I saw that on your portfolio.
Except for this new campaign, we're kind of working with we're releasing, due to this pandemic, we're releasing one song a month from our new album. And so we've been fortunate enough to team up with a bunch of artists that we've met or worked with, or, through the years, and to do a lot of the covers, and, some really heavy hitters in there that I'm excited to be able to work with.
So basically you went back, when you came back to California, they had to teach you to use your superpowers for good and not evil.
Well, my dad was, came out and visited me, and he was like, so I was like, dude, I hate school. I don't want to do this. This sucks. And he goes, well, what do you want to do? I go, I don't think I really want to do is play my guitar. And he goes, well, at least you know what you don't want to do. And I was like, I didn't really get what that meant until now that I have kids. Yeah. And they're like, and I'm like, dude, they're like, this sucks. Like, I hate it. Like, whatever it is, like, we tried to get my daughter into softball. Not happening. Right. And she's like, Dad, and she felt bad, because she thought I wanted her to play. And I was like, I don't ever worry about that. I was like, you'll find something that you're into, but you got to try everything a little bit. And like, and it's also super important to know what you hate, and know what you don't like, because then you're not going to waste your time. Yeah, I agree with you there, man.
What was your first break once you got into the music business?
Oh God, I think that the non-breaks are more interesting.
Talk about them. Right on.
I loved music so bad that I wanted to be in a band. And for years I would try to put these bands together. And, out here we have the LA Weekly or the OC Weekly. We're kind of the free sort of papers. And in the back, there would be ads for, seeking guitar player must be into, Slayer, whatever it is,
Yeah.
And I would answer all these ads and try to join up with these bands and try to get musicians to play with me, and just nothing worked out. I finally joined this punk band called Let Down. And, I thought we really had something going, and we're playing around every once in a while, working on new music, band practice once a week, and in like the singer's apartment, with like a mattress up against like the window to try to keep the noise down, like that kind of stuff. And we had this gig. At a place called The Garage on Santa Monica Boulevard in Hollywood. And it was like Tuesday night, and we go on at like, I don't know, midnight or something. So we get through our second song, and the place just, everybody left.
Oh my gosh.
Everybody left. And the bartender's just waving his hands. He's like, hey guys. There's no one here. Let's just call it a night and let's all go home. and we're like, all right, we had band practice the next day. We were just all right, we got to get a gig. And like, it didn't matter. You know what I mean? We were so enthusiastic. I mean, we were terrible, but it's like nothing would stop us, getting gigs and keeping going. And ultimately that never panned out, but it was years of that. And I met all of the guys in the Bronx through playing with other bands or throughout the kind of the little sort of, scene we had kind of going. And, there was, everybody kind of got put together out of just this group of bands that we used to play with. And also being able, once I took a job working for a record label, I was around a lot of musicians. And
right.
So it was easy for me to kind of interact and kind of play with different people and kind of just being in that scene. And so the first big, there was probably 10 years of just literally eating shit. And
were you living on your own then, or still living with your folks?
Yeah. I was living on my own.
So those were a hard 10 years.
Yeah. And then, I started the Bronx, and we made 3 songs in my friend's garage. It's actually the really good guitar player. His name's Bo Burchell. He plays in that band Seosin, and he had a Pro Tools rig in his parents' garage. And so we recorded 3 songs, and we made a website, which was like, and we had you could download these MP3s for free,
Okay.
And because I had worked in the music industry, we were able to, I started to kind of know some people, and we kind of started passing some of our demo CDs around. That we got a big rubber stamp made from like rubberstampman.com or something like that. And it was just the size of a CD, and we got these big stampers, and so we would stamp all these CDs with like our logo on it.
That's so cool.
CDRs, and we'd sell them at shows, and we played. And and so we got a manager like that. And it was this guy named Jonathan Daniel who runs this company called Crush Management. And they manage, at the time, they weren't as big as they are now. I think they managed like Weezer and Fall Out Boy and, huge bands, Green Day, stuff like that. And so he's a really smart dude. He worked in the music business for a long time, and he cooked up this whole plan where we had a show at the Troubadour. And so he started passing these CDs around to people that he knew in the industry. And I never thought anything was going to come of it, because the Bronx was a complete joke to me, 100% joke. It was like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if we're a band from LA and we call ourselves the Bronx? And like, because at that time there was a bunch of like that East Coast, West Coast hip hop stuff going on, you know, and I was like, we would just be dicks. This would just be funny, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, this would piss people off. And so we never took it seriously, but we started getting these emails from different record labels and be like, hey, we really like your stuff. You got anything else? And I'd be like, I'd write back to them in Morse code. I don't know Morse code, but I found a website that would translate stuff, you know, and I was like, you haven't heard shit like this since, you know, whatever. I don't know. But, and then like some other guys like, and then Jonathan Daniel used to play in a band with Gilby Clarke from Guns N' Roses called Candy back in the day. And I don't know if you're familiar with Candy, but oh man, it is, you know, just spandex city, you know, huge hair. And so he's all, you guys should go record with Gilby Clarke. And I was like, what, from Guns N' Roses? Like, hell yeah. And so we go over to his house, we do 3 songs with him. And then he starts floating that around kind of the music business. And we start, and we're being kids, you know, writing all these record labels back, you know, and I'm this one dude's all, I don't know, label. I can't remember what label it's from. He's like, send me the rock. I was like, I need your FedEx number. He's like, okay. So I FedEx him a huge box of rocks, you know, this stupid shit like that. And so Jonathan
and Gilby produced your first record, right? Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay.
Awesome experience too. I had no clue what we were doing. And, but he kind of, you know how you know people are with cats, squirt bottle. Yeah, it's like we were a bunch of like cats running around the studio.
That's a good analogy, man.
And so that happened, and then we wrote 3 more songs and went in again with Gilby and did that. And by that time, we had enough songs to play a show, and you know, for more than 20 minutes, you know. Right. And so, and he, you know, we learned a couple covers too to fill up our 30-minute time slot. Yeah. And so, you know, we started playing, and we were getting booked like crazy. Like we didn't have a booking agent, but people were like, oh, hey, I want to put you guys on this show and open up for this band and this band. And, you know, and the whole time I had a job I didn't tell anybody. And one of our original bass player, he actually worked with me at the record label as well. And I didn't tell anybody at the record label, kept it all under wraps. And,
how come?
I don't know. It was 2 different things to me. There was like my job, and then there was like kind of this like big sort of practical joke that was going on underneath. And, and so I remember my boss gets on the phone and he goes, Joby, get your fucking ass in here right now. And I go into his office, and he goes, and he was so pissed. And there was a booking agent in there, this dude, Andrew Ellis. And he goes, oh no, wait, maybe it was this other dude, Kevin Kusatsu. I don't remember who it was, but he goes, you know, Joby's in this band that's in a major label bidding war. And he's all, what? And I didn't know about it, you know? And so, you know, whatever it was, we ended up getting, you know, flown out to New York. Well, let me back up. And so what Jonathan did was he got like 12 A&R guys from like 12 different labels to come. And so they all see each other there because they all know each other.
Right. Which is great.
And so, I mean, and so he organized the whole thing. And, you know, I think we ended up getting like, I don't know, like 11 offers.
Wow.
You know,
that's amazing.
Which it was, but I think it was because everybody else thought that the other A&R guy was going to sign it. You know what I mean? And that's how that world kind of works.
Yes.
You know? And so, you know, we got flown out to, you know, never forget, like, it was just stupid. It was, I'm glad I have the experience, but I've never seen money like spent like that. You know, we went to, we ended up signing with Island Def Jam, and the Killers, the Killers had the same A&R guy. And so they would take us out to dinner, and it's like, I would see these bills and I was just like, oh my God. Like,
this is in New York City, they're taking you out?
Oh yeah. It was just ridiculous. I was like, dude, this is like more money for like a meal than I make in like 4 months. You know, I was like, I just never seen anything like it. And so, you know, my boss told me at the record label, he goes, you can't work here if you're in a signed band. And I was like, all right, well, I quit, you know, and so, you know, been playing music ever since.
That's awesome. What a good story, man.
It was crazy. But I don't even know if labels are really around anymore. You know, this was almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You know? And so, but I'm glad I have those like rock and roll stories, you know,
Yeah.
or whatever, you know, people getting signed, you know, because back, you know, when I grew up, being in a signed band was like unheard of.
Right. That was the goal.
It was only for the elite, you know, you know, like, or you would hear whisperings of, oh, these guys got signed. And you're like, whoa, like that. Then they actually get to go into a studio and make a record, you know, and like all of these things. And it just sounded so, you know, you get to go on tour and like all of this stuff. And it sounded so exciting to me, you know. And so to be a signed band, it was like a dream come true.
Well, what was nice is that you said here it was 10 years of eating shit. That's why it's nice, because it was 10 years of eating shit. And then it's like, you know, you got paid off. You got rewarded or acknowledged for 10 years of eating shit, you know?
Well, you know, it's something I really wanted to do. I wanted to be in a band because it's what made me happy, you know? And it's like to me, there's no bigger pipe dream, with the exception of being a professional athlete, than to being in a like playing music for a living.
Totally.
It's just like, it's really tough, you know? And I feel very fortunate.
19 years you guys have been together. That's very impressive and unusual. And in the punk world, that's like, you know, like 10 years, you know, 10 times that amount. What do you think, like what do you think you guys have managed to retain towards longevity that maybe other bands, or that gets lost in other situations?
Luck. I don't know.
Gotta be some of it, of course.
But it's just, you know, we all really enjoy what we do, and we all really enjoy being around each other. You know, I'm not going to say there hasn't been fights or disagreements or anything like that through the years, but I've never really cared, or none of us have. You know, it's just like, when it comes to art and you put people together, it's like something comes out. And it's like, when you try to steer that, I think that's where people go wrong, you know. And it's like, you know, art's a funny thing, but like, to me, it's being respectful of what the other person wants to do to your music. And, you know, sometimes I have to be like, dude, that, you know, that sucks. And
right.
and it goes both ways, you know.
Sure.
Sometimes the guys in my band are like, yeah, dude, that song sucks. And, you know, but it's we found something that we really enjoy doing, and it's a way that we can work. And it's just like, you know, we have a sound just because that's what comes out, you know. And it's like, that's just the way it is. And it's like, I think I've always been kind of aware of that, and not to really try to steer the ship in a different direction than where it naturally needs to go. I feel that music to me is really fucking transparent. Like, I can hear, and it's like, I don't want to hear bands trying to sound like other bands. Right. You know, I don't want to hear, you know, it's just not exciting to me, you know. And it's like, there's this book called The Artist's Way, which I would encourage anybody, you know, to read. It's about writing, and it kind of deals with like writer's block, or kind of the way your brain works when you're creating something that, like, you know, the place you want to be when you're making something up. You're like, I don't know if this is good, or, you know, because the way your brain works is it's association, where it goes like, oh, well, I like this, so I'm going to play something like this, or I like the way this sounds, so I want to do something like that. That's bad. You know, do something, you know, influence is one thing, you know, but, you know, be aware of it, keep it in its, you know, keep it over here. You don't want to, you know, everybody comes from someplace, you know, like, I like electric guitar. That's a great influence, but like, don't play what that dude's playing, or don't, you know, try to do your own thing. And so that book, The Artist's Way, it kind of deals with that And when it comes to art, I think a valuable lesson I learned from reading that book is it's the process. If you can figure out the process of how you get from point A to point B, you can put anything in that blank space. It could be guitar, it could be cooking, it could be painting, skateboarding. I think skateboarding is art. You know, anything like that fills into that space, and it just, to me, it gives you the tools on how to be a better creative person and to maximize what you do versus what somebody else does.
Well, it sounds like also that you're all on the same page as far as not sort of being willful about where things are going to go. And I think you said, like, take it organically, let the art come out. And that's the first priority, as opposed to what any given band member wants. I think we should do this.
Right. And it's, you know, but that's the way we work. There's some bands that, you know, they have that dude that's like, you know, the mad professor, you know, that just writes it like Tame Impala. This just dude does everything like it by himself, you know, and you're just like, wow, that's impressive, you know.
Sure.
We're not that, you know, we're not that people, you know, and I'm you know, we're the kind of the sum of all of our parts, I think, is the best way to really describe it, you know.
That's awesome, man. I think that's, I mean, 19 years of relationship with one person is a good accomplishment. No, seriously, you know, it's not easy having relationships for that long with multiple people involved.
Well, there's been some lineup changes through the years, you know, and you know, but we're at right now, you know, we're at a really good spot right now, and everybody's really enjoying themselves, and it's like we're really enjoying the music we're making. We're having fun being around each other, and I can't wait to get back out there on the road. You know?
That's great, man. Man, I got to tell you, I've said a couple of times, I love Mariachi el Bronx. What prompted you? Like, I was so impressed by, like, this is so not a thing that people do, but you guys did it, and it's fucking awesome. What was the trigger?
I think there's a couple things. At the time when we started kind of doing that, we all lived in, you know, at the time we all moved over to like the east side of LA, because it's like, that's the only place we could afford, which if you know, kind of the way LA is laid out is predominantly Hispanic, you know? And so it was just, it's all the music we heard. It was all the food that we ate. It was, you know, it was just like, you just get thrown into sort of this world, you know, and it was the only place we could afford to live, you know? And so I feel like that had something to do with it. But then I also think that we just really, really wanted to be mariachis and put those suits on.
Touche. How did your initial fans take to Mariachi el Bronx? And did you sort of like, and did the Bronx grow a new fan base through mariachi, or are they like two separate buckets? How does that work?
It's all the above, all the above.
Okay.
It's like, you go to a Bronx show, it's usually like dudes with beards, you know, and like some reluctant girlfriends. And then you go to a Mariachi el Bronx show, and there's every single kind of person there.
Right.
And so, which I think is cool, you know, and it's like, you know, there's a lot of people on dates. There's, you know, a ton of Hispanic people. There's like, you know, daughters and fathers and mothers and sons and, you know, grandparents, you know, and all this, just everything, you know, and it was a really fun time, you know, and it was like, I didn't ever think we'd sell any records, but that band took us, you know, everywhere. You know, I mean, we got to do one of the coolest things I think that we got to do with that group was we got to do like the late night TV circuit, which almost doesn't really exist anymore, I don't think.
Right.
I don't know. I don't really watch TV, but being able to, you know, like I remember watching Jay Leno as a kid. I remember watching, you know, David Letterman, and being able to, you know, I think that was kind of the first time my parents, because they came out to New York City when we did David Letterman. I think that was the first time we were like, oh, You know, like once you're on TV, it kind of validates you.
Yeah, yeah. Especially you're on Letterman.
Parents.
Yeah,
you know, your parents were like, okay, maybe there is something to this music thing. You know.
What was that experience like? You playing out there?
It was the best. It was. I was in the elevator after the taping with Paul Schaefer, and I was like, "Oh, what's up, man?" He goes, "How was that?" And I go, "Man," and he's like, "You did pretty good, kid. You did pretty good." And I was like,
"Oh, that's
cool.
Nice. That's cool,
it's really
man.
cool, really cool." But it was just surreal, like seeing I remember I was so nervous when we did the first one we ever did was Jay Leno, and the way that show works is they bring you in there at like 9 a.m. and you have to rehearse the song like 20 times so they can get the cameras and the lights and all this stuff to set up for the taping. And I was fucking up the solo every single time. And I think they knew it. So they're like, all right, let's do it again. Like he's not getting solo. I was really nervous. And it was this song called 48 Roses. And the first time I ever nailed the solo was during the taping of the live show.
Oh, wow.
And then like, no, I don't think anybody can see it, but there's like this relief that passes over the band. And then everybody's like, okay, now we can play.
Yeah.
Like we got through it. And it was down to the wire on that one. But it was a really good time, really fun stuff.
Do you guys does Mariachi pretty much play only West Coast dates, or?
No, we went all over the world all the time.
That's
awesome.
It
was like we had a thing because I knew that the only way we were ever going to get that band off the ground is if we took them out on tour with us, like, you know, because everybody thought it was a joke, because most people think, you know, mariachi music is like the Three Amigos, you know what I mean?
I have to, I'm going to cop to that. I had no idea what to expect. I said, okay, at first I was like, how did they take like Mexican restaurant music and create a whole band? So I was right in that camp. And then I listened to it. I was like, holy shit, this is so awesome. I was just blown away. I mean, it's so freaking awesome. I was totally blown away, man.
Thank you. It's just the way it came out. You know, I was like, hey, we got to sing this in English because we're white dudes. You know, I mean, there's a couple of Mexican dudes in the band, but you know what I mean? And it's just like,
yeah, you can't. Yeah.
We have drums to it and like all of these different things that don't necessarily exist in that, you know, musical genre. The mariachi music is traditionally, it's almost identical to classical music, you know, that we would play. That there's no one really writing new material. It's all standards and songs that have been passed down through generations.
Okay, I didn't know that. That makes a lot of sense, though.
And they all there's a lot of if you do go to a mariachi festival or stuff, you will see like the folklorical dancers, and so all of the songs there's different patterns that you'll play. There's like a huasteca, wapango, or like a waltz, you know, like these different patterns. And that's what tells the folklorical dancers how to dance to it, because there's a certain dance for like a wapango or a certain dance for a huasteca, so that every like, and if you see like these big ass mariachi bands with like 40 people in them, and then there's like 25 people dancing, it's just like, how the hell did they even get that to work? It's crazy.
Yeah. But, so the Bronx, so mariachi typically will open for the Bronx in a lot of situations.
When we first started, because it was like telling people, I was like, yeah, we got this mariachi band. They're like, what? And so we did tour after tour after tour all over the world, playing twice a night.
That's a lot of work, man.
It was, you know, but all, you know, it's just, you know, then we started getting festivals. And I mean, we would play, you know, Reading and Leeds. We'd play on the main stage as mariachi, and then jam over and play, you know, the punk stage is the Bronx. And that became a thing. So we're just doing double duty at all these festivals. And it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
A lot of work. And especially like those instruments aren't really made to be amplified. You know, the amount of things that we tried, because they don't make pickups for them, you know.
for a saxophone or for a trumpet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, those things, but like the vihuela, the jarana, the guitarrón, like this just, the technology is just not there. They're crude instruments that, and a big help was Candelas guitars of Boyle Heights. I have to give a shout out to Tomas. He was kind of the one that he was like, all right, well, we're going to call LR bags because this instrument kind of exists between this sort of range. And, there's, we'll get like a ukulele pickup and try that because it's tuned for, wherever this, the vihuela sits. And we try different stuff. And it ended up being, he called LR back so many times to try and figure this stuff out for us. I finally, Mike, the rep for LR bags, just finally calls me up. He's like, dude, what are you doing? And I was like, I explained it to him, and he's like, oh, okay, here we go. And he's just like, because he's like, we're coming out with this product called this Venue DI, and so he gave us all those, and that really helped a lot to just kind of clean up and be able to tune and get things to work, because it was just, we were wrapping 57s in like towels.
Oh my God.
And duct taping them to like the inside of the instruments to try and just, it
a
was
lot of work, man.
It was shit like that. We tried to even use like those acoustic amplifiers, and oh God, it was just disaster after disaster. But we ended up at a place where it's like, okay, we can kind of do this. So
that's so cool, man. Pounded by the Surf.
Yes,
I really like that. So, and even the live album I thought was really good, and that's not easy music to record live. So talk about Pounded by the Surf, and any chance you can release more of that? Or
Pounded by the Surf is it was, I traded, it's kind of a good story, but not really a good story, I guess. I don't know. I traded this dude, I got a bunch of pedals that I don't know, like distortion pedals, overdrive pedals from some company that, the boutique pedal company that, there's a zillion of them.
Yeah.
And, I just am one of those guys that thinks amp distortion is irreplaceable. Amps, I mean, pedals are cool, but it's like, and I've played the same Marshall JMP for over 20 years. It's just, it sounds kick-ass to me. So I traded him all these pedals because he got all these old Japanese Tesco guitars.
Sure.
I was like, oh man, and he was thankfully a guitar tech, so he could, put them all back together, because those things are, every neck's making a left-hand turn, and they're just the electronics are just. So I traded him for like 3 of those guitars. I just started messing around, and I had I do demos. I do them all in Logic on a computer. So I started messing around with this, playing, writing some stuff. I was like, oh, this is kind of surfy, and got a song down, punched in some drums. All right. Did another one. I was like, all right. And it was just really fun. It was something I would do at nights. And so I would just record all these demos. And I was like, dude, we could do a band, And so I called up the bass player of the mariachi band, Vincent Hidalgo. I was like, he's, one of those guys that plays everything. I was like, hey man, what'd you think about playing drums in this? It's like, oh, that's cool. And then another friend of ours, Thad, who is from San Diego, he plays guitar in it as well. And then Brad, who's the bass player of the Bronx and the trumpet player of mariachi, is the bass player. And so, I separated all the files out. I was going to use them as guides. And so we went into the studio and we started tracking everything. And I couldn't get a better sound than that stupid plugin in Logic. And so all that stuff, it's just a guitar simulator plugin.
That's it.
That's it. And then I recorded most of the stuff in my living room. It was just like,
that's a great surf tone, man. I'm shocked that that's what it.
Yeah, to plug in. I think it was the pawn shop amp through some cabinet with a 57 off access. How you can adjust all that stuff.
Sure.
That's all it ever was.
That's a great sound.
To a crappy Tesco guitar,
Any chance you're going to do any more of that?
Yeah, we got a few songs down, but you know, it's hard for us to get together during all of this, you know.
Sure.
Just, you know, there's, you know, people's focus is, you know, getting through the week.
Yeah, I totally get it, man, especially right now, man. Yeah.
So, but I think that there's about five demos written. So hopefully, I definitely want to make another one. It's definitely really fun and something that we really enjoy doing, you know. And that's another. Just, it's funny. My manager, when I sent my manager the master, he goes, "Congratulations on tackling another musical genre that sells 0 records."
Oh my God. That's really funny. Unfortunately, it's kind of true, but yeah. Yeah. Wow. Congrats. That's really funny, man. But out West, there's a lot of niche surf bands that are really good.
There is, you know, and especially since, you know, this is where Fender is, you know, and this is where it came from. And that's, you know, even though I don't play a Fender, it's kind of, that's synonymous with me with surf music. Like, it's very rare to find somebody that doesn't play, you know, a Jag or something, you know, and so it's definitely prevalent. It's definitely, as far as I know, the birthplace of surf music is from here.
I would think. Yeah. That's funny what he said, man. Mariachi el Bronx, congratulations on finding another genre that sells no music. Oh my God. I mean, you could say that about, and you know, it's hard to sell any music today. You know, you got to go out.
It's not what it's about. Like,
I know,
you know, it is if you're a manager, I guess.
Right.
And that's kind of, you see it, but it's like, you know, no, I've never ever. I feel like doing something to try and make money at it is just a weird way to look at art, because I don't think that that's where all, like, kind of, you know, I remember when like there was like Korn and Limp Bizkit, and then all of a sudden like 50,000 other rap rock bands showed up like overnight.
Yeah.
And all terrible, you know. And it's just like that kind of stuff to me is like, is you want to stay away from whatever's going on, because just as fast as things go up, they're going to come down. And it doesn't sound right too. Music is a pretty transparent thing to me. And like, I can hear it if it's not, like, if you're trying to do something else, because, you know, it just doesn't sound right to me.
Well, I'll tell you, I've had maybe close to 850 guests on the show. One of them wrote music specifically to write hits. Yeah. That's it. Everybody else, it's you play music that it's art, like you said. You feel good, you know.
There's a few of those guys that can do that can just write hit songs, and it's like, that's just weird to me, you know. But it's like, that's also their lane. That's what they're good at, you know. Like, I don't think I'd want to, if I wrote a hit song, you know, or pop hit, I don't think I'd want to listen to it again.
Yeah, I get it. Well, I hope to hear another. I hope you do drop something else by Pound.
Yeah.
How about the Drips? You tell me that's your favorite band that doesn't exist.
Yeah, I did. It was like, that was, and again, like, that's still kind of an extended group of guys that were kind of in our musical kind of scene, you know, growing up. And it was Vince, who plays bass in the mariachi band and drums in the surf band, is also the bass player of that. And then his brother David Hidalgo, who is the drummer of Social Distortion now, and he played drums in that band, and he also played drums on our 5th record and was our touring mariachi drummer for a while. The Hidalgos, that's David Hidalgo from Los Lobos, that's his kids.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, that family, talent.
A little bit of talent there, right?
Man, I mean, and like, I have to work so hard, you know, to like learn these things and play it, you know, and then like they just come in and like, you know, and it's just, you're just like, fuck, man. It's pretty cool. But David, you know, that they're a great family, and David Senior, you know, he's played on all of our mariachi records, you know, and you know, he'll play accordion on some stuff, or, you know, guitar on some stuff. And he's just super talented and really gracious with his time. I think we did a late night show where he played with us. What was it called? It's a guy with dark hair and beard. I don't remember his name. Not Craig Kilborn. Anyway, it's on the internet someplace, but he sat in with us one night on one of those. It was really cool.
That must have been awesome.
Yeah, it was the cast of Jersey Shore was the guest.
That was weird.
A lot of cologne in the dressing rooms.
A lot of cologne. That's hilarious, man. A lot of cologne. Hey, I want to talk about the new record. It's very good, quite guitar heavy in a very good way.
Well, that would be Joe Barisi.
So my next question: what was different working with Joe? One thing that I noticed, easy, you know, the drums and guitars are crystal clear, man. You can hear every fucking string pluck, every tom hit, you know.
Joe is, you know, he's a prowler. You know, he prowls around, prowling for tone. You know,
that's a great way to put it. He's a prowler, a tone prowler.
He is. He loves prowling.
He does.
We almost made our major label record with Joe, and it just didn't work out. Our A&R guy didn't like him. And so we straight up had time booked at a studio. Joe was coming over doing pre-production, and at the last minute, our A&R guy just pulled the rug out from under him. Dude, he was so pissed, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
But I think it was the second time it happened with said A&R guy. But we've, you know, remained friends ever since. And finally he had time, and he had just got done doing Tool, and I think he was ready to take a break, but he let us. I think we got in there right at the last minute. And
he doesn't take many breaks, that dude, man.
Dude, and I mean,
machine.
You find somebody that works a longer, harder day than Joe Barisi in the studio. No, that dude runs shit. Yeah. And it's that's the way he does it. And he's, you know, he's old school, you know, where I could sit there and make a record on a plug-in. There's no fucking way Joe's doing that. Yeah. You know, he's, you know, we got 3 amps going, you know, with 3 pedals on each going into 3 different cabinets, each with 6 mics, you know, and it's just and if anybody, you know, there's probably some stuff you can see on YouTube, but if anybody's ever been to Joe's studio, it's wall-to-wall, butt-to-nuts gear.
So how did Barisi influence you guys in the new album?
Barisi is strictly all analog. He's in recording with him. You do things, you know, you work on sounds, you get it the way you want it. And it's old school recording, you know, everything went to 2-inch tape. And when we would work on guitar sounds, and if anybody ever that's listening to or watching this has ever been to Barisi's studio, they can absolutely understand what I'm saying. But Barisi will go into the back and he'll come out with, you know, 3 amps you've never even heard of. And, you know, we plug those in, and then he'll bring out 3 pedals that you've never even seen or heard of before. And then, you know, we talk about, you know, a sound or a guitar, and it's you'll pick up, you know, some guitar you've never even seen before, or, you know, we're going through different versions of, you know, he's got 15 Les Pauls. They're all coil tapped, and, you know, we go through them all and we try different things, or we try this guitar and that, and then we finally end up with something. And every single guitar track on Bronx VI, coincidentally, is 6 tracks of guitar summed down.
Wow. I mean, it's a really guitar heavy in a good way record. It's a great, very guitar positive record. You know,
Barisi, he knows a lot about guitars, and he has a lot of them, and he has got a lot of amps and just stuff that you're just and, you know, and not everything was tube. Not everything was high gain. We would use some of those old school, you know, 80s, you know, 1 rack unit, you know, solid state sort of Yamaha, you know, it's got pink and blue, you know, even stuff like that we'd work into the mix. It was really fun and exciting. And he one of the cool things that I really like about, the old school ways of recording is he docked everything. So I have, about that thick, binder full of every pedal, every chain, every guitar, that we use for every sound on the record.
Oh, wow.
It's really cool.
So he like keeps like a dossier, or like he just,
in case we have to do a recall, or all the settings, everything's docked.
Jesus, just that alone is a ton of work.
Well, his assistant did it.
Wow. So what did you play through most of Bronx VI, guitar wise?
Is different every time was different. We would set up a different sound for every, whether it was a solo, whether it was a backing track, or I would throw a baritone thing on something. Everything was different. What was cool?
Tell me something cool, a cool guitar you played that you either didn't expect or never had played before. It was like, wow, that's a nice surprise.
We had one song that we were kind of struggling to get together. I think it's the last song on the record, called Participation Trophy.
Yeah, man, that's one of my favorite songs on the record. I was going to ask you about that. Yeah. Okay. Great track.
Well, I was kind of like, and this is nothing I'm playing is really like, blowing my skirt up. So he goes in the back, is prowling around and comes out with a lap steel. And I'm like,
oh my God.
I'm like, I don't even know how to play this thing. And he goes, well, it's about time you learn. And I'm like, got this thing on my lap, and I'm just, and I'm like, this is kind of cool, and then we just cut a bunch of stuff, and and then he put it all together. But that was something that I've, and I'm just like, how am I ever going to do this live?
Well, my question was, that was a Participation Trophy. Great song to close a record. Totally rocks out. Great solo on here. What did you play that through? Sounds like direct to an amp with a wah pedal. So it wasn't a wah pedal.
No, it was all slide, the lap steel.
Wow. That is very cool. What amp were you playing through, if you remember? How do you remember? I mean, like I
don't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
I mean, I could go back and look at the docs.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's funny that you mentioned that song. That was one of my favorite songs on that. Another song I liked on the new album, Peace Pipe. Great groove, great vibe. And the music, it was interesting. The music sounds really positive and upbeat, but like I keep hearing lyrics until the Reaper comes along. So it was like
yeah.
So what's the backstory to that?
Matt and Matt's our singer.
Yeah.
We're I don't know if we're obsessed with it, but something like kind of a common thread that throughout kind of the lifespan of this band is something that we're really, really excited about, and always is a really go-to sort of theme, is juxtapositioning.
Yeah,
where you kind of show this, but you're doing that, or I mean, it's even the band name, it's a juxtaposition,
right?
And even having kind of this dual sort of personality with the mariachi and in the punk band is like, that's the same sort of thing, and it's kind of like the anchor point of whenever we need to make a decision or something. It's kind of like, hey, I mean, even to releasing, this, the, campaign for releasing this record is, releasing a single every month with, other artists or photographers that we're fans of, and that's a different way to kind of, to do things that are like everything, like whether it's putting together a song or doing an album cover, to me it's the exact same thing. Even though people would be like, well, you're playing an instrument in one, but you're doing whatever to do this, but it's an album cover is generally an image with text.
Right.
A song generally is music with vocals.
Right.
And so that to me it's kind of the exact same thing. I look at things very similarly. So being able to juxtapose either one of those kind of forms of art is pretty, like, it's the same thing. They're on the same highway.
So that song is the same philosophy, the juxtaposition with the upbeat positive song. Correct. And then the lyrics of Until the Reaper Comes Along. That's really cool, man.
Exactly.
I really like that. I don't know if you know, there's another famous song called Peace Pipe. Did you know that?
I didn't.
Yeah, it's there was a classic rock band Cry of Love came out in like 92.
Yeah, I remember Cry of Love.
Yeah. Oddly Free, great guitar player, which it's a good song too. Great song. Peace Pipe was their like number 1 or number 2 hit. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's killer.
Are you going to be able to book some shows to tour this record, or is that unknown at this point?
Yeah, our touring starts up in 2022. We have a few festivals in September, and you know, like most bands, there's a lot of talk. There's a bunch of maybes, you know, placeholders, and you know, I think there's sort of 2 different kind of ways of looking at things now. There's certain festivals and stuff that are just chomping at the bit and they're going to go. Then there's other people that are going to wait to see how those go before they kind of get their stuff moving. So, and I've looked at some of the lineups for some of these festivals and we're just like, that's a lot of bands.
There's like 300 bands in 5 days, man. I don't even like, no. And they're all
huge.
Yeah. Pretty big names, man. Like, how do you, you know, who picks? Yeah. I noticed that.
I know. I think, you know, people want to work, people want to play, you know, and I think it's like, you know, I think it's great. I think live music's going to come back like I think there's, in a limited capacity, but you know, it'll come.
I think it's going to come. I think people are dying to see live music, man. I think people can't wait.
I feel like I'm getting just all sun here.
No, this is great. It's pretty cool. It's just at the tip, but you're fine, man. No, I think people are yeah, there you go. I think people are chomping at the bit to see shows. Do you guys ever come to the East Coast?
All the time.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. We were just there.
You probably play Ybor City down here.
We do just Miami, Fort Lauderdale, all the main ones. Yeah. You know, House of Blues at Disneyland, whatever that
in Orlando.
Oh yeah. That place is crazy.
Yeah.
There's just alligators in the pond, you know.
That's Florida. Yeah, that's Florida. Yeah.
But they're like, yeah, don't go in the water. I was like, okay.
Joby, tell me the top 3 experiences you think you've had musically. Knee-jerk reaction, what comes to mind?
Just being able to do it for a living. You know, that was kind of a pipe dream, you know, and I'm so thankful every day that I get to do something that I enjoy. That's probably the number 1 thing that makes me happy in my life. Another musical experience was going to another country for the first time and being able to, that was mine. Like we went to England in 2004, and to be able to go on tour in another country and people actually came.
And they knew the lyrics to your songs.
Yeah, it was bizarre, you know, and that to me was a pretty big highlight, you know. And now we've traveled the world, I don't know, countless times, but the first time I remember going, it was just culture shock, you know, to me. Even now, I mean, just being in like these old cabs and seeing I never really realized how new America was.
Oh yeah.
You know, go to England, you're like, man, this is old.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. Probably, I don't know, being able to have such a stupid idea as being a mariachi band and being able to kind of live these 2 sort of separate lives, you know. I think that, you know, I really like bands that you can tell that only those people could make those sounds, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and it's just there's not, and I feel like, you know, in our sort of world that, you know, it's like I feel like we're the only ones that could really do that, you know. And you know, I've seen a bunch of bands that, you know, we've influenced, and you know, they try to do the same thing, and I think that's great, you know. But it's I feel like we own a piece of I don't know.
Okay. That's yours, man. Yeah, I totally get it.
Like a little piece of real estate in the music world. You know?
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. You're so as much success as you've had, your humility is like so awesome. I guess that's what no, I mean, you're just like, you're very like aware of, here today, gone tomorrow. And that comes through, and like your gratitude really is awesome.
Well, it's very true. I am. I mean, it's like I've seen bands come up and go down, and we're still here.
Yeah.
And we're still able to do what we love to do, and we enjoy being around each other too. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
Is the camaraderie between the bands, and it's like. I always tell people, and I tell like my kids, I was like, kids, just make sure you do what you want, because that's the only piece of advice I could ever give you. Don't worry about it, what anybody else says. Just do what you want, because ultimately you'll be happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Low points. Joby, tell me some of the low points or dark periods you've had to deal with in life, and how'd you get through them?
Low points. Having to deal with my body not cooperating the way I want it to. That was pretty tough, being able, like, having to deal with back problems and surgeries throughout, a couple periods of time, and not being able to sit down, just, that was pretty low. I think probably one of the other lowest points of my life is I feel like I was kind of on the business end of the idea that in order to have a good life, you needed to go to college, or you had to go to college to get a good job so you would have a good life, or so you would make money, that sort of,
yeah.
We're like my parents did that, and so that's kind of the ideal of, like, let's say the 50s or 60s, or 70s. It was like, if you want to get ahead in life, man, you better go to college. You better get that good grades, get that good job. Then you can have that big house and whatever. And so when I graduated school, I was a graphic designer for the Yellow Pages, and which it was surprisingly this massively high pressured situation. There was a lot of money, and these sales people, I'd have to go to these meetings, and I was wearing like a tie, and there was just like, it was intense. And I was making a ton of money, and I was completely miserable.
Yeah.
And it's like I was working, 60-hour weeks, and having to commute like 2 hours up to Pasadena and back. And part of the, I haven't had work for anybody for a long time, so I don't know if this is still the same, but back then a lot of the lucrative, what they tried to sell you is they would give you benefits, and like, whether that was getting your teeth fixed or you could go see a doctor. But part of the benefits that I had of working for the company was they would cover psychiatric care. And I was just like losing my mind. I was so unhappy. And so I went to a shrink.
Yeah.
That the company paid for. We started talking, and I'm just like, man, I spent my whole life like working towards this. And like, I feel, I just so unhappy, and like, I fucking hate, like, there's gotta be more than life. And she goes, well, why don't you just quit?
Wow.
And
not what you were expecting.
Never occurred to me.
Yeah.
I was like, she goes, if you're unhappy, do something else. And you kind of get like wrapped into this sort of way of thinking of like, I got to go to college, get the good, this is what I've been working for. And I remember at that moment I made plans, and I quit my job. I took a different job, working for a cosmetic company, designing like fake eyelash packaging and shit for Revlon, and I don't know, all this crap. And then from there, I took another pay cut, went to work for a record label just to try and get into the music business, because that's what I really wanted to do. So it's like, It was like probably like this 4-year kind of descent into being, what I wanted to do. But that was a big low point. And also at the same time, the biggest light bulb that got turned on that I just it didn't even cross my mind.
Well, you know what? Sometimes I have found, like, one of the benefits of seeing a therapist is, or just sometimes even talking to a buddy, is sometimes we need permission almost to do something.
Yeah.
And
you get conditioned.
Yeah. And you only know what's in your head. If someone could interject something like, yeah, that's a pretty good idea. Why don't I do that?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
And
That's cool.
I tell like, it's funny, our bass player and trumpet player, Brad, I told that story once. He goes, you actually had to pay somebody to tell you that? I go, nah, the company I work for did.
Hey, it was money well spent, man. It might be the best money you ever spent in your life, or somebody spent it. That's good, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was really cool. That was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me one or two things that you did, which at the time were out of your comfort zone, and you might have just said one of them, but hindsight 2020 turned into big positive breakthroughs for you.
Probably taking the leap of learning how to play mariachi instruments. That was tough. Like those things are not easy. And it's like you ever see like this is kind of the analogy I put it to. Like there's two types of music that just completely get shoveled to me. You're either really good or really bad. There's like nothing in between. And that's like blues and jazz. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's blues musicians that are just incredible, and they're still kind of like the lower tier, you know?
Yeah.
But then there's these guys that are just like, you know, aliens. They're so good. You know, and same with jazz. There's like some of it I'm just like, and there's nothing worse than like bad blues or bad jazz.
Yeah.
For me. Well, bad reggae is pretty bad.
Yes.
So like, when we went to play mariachi, it's like we were never going to be as good as these, you know, these like people that are just like, you know, train their whole lives, you know, with these maestros and all this stuff. And so, and I wanted to make it us, you know, which is, you know, like we have drums, like nobody has drums in mariachi music, you know, but, you know, we're a rock and roll band, you know? And so that was something that when we originally started, a lot of the guys in the band were just like, this is stupid. And it was hard. It was hard. I'm like, no, this is what we're doing, you know? And it was, like original bass player, even like he quit. He's just like, I'm not doing this. It sucks. And but it turned out to be a really positive thing, and it's kind of, you know, the band we are, you know, today, and kind of what we're known for is kind of that. But that was a big sort of like, do we really want to do this? You know, that was a big leap of faith that ended up, you know, turning into something awesome. I think, let me think, I'm trying to think of other things that ended up being great. The 2006, 7, 8, somewhere around in there, we were still on Island Def Jam, and we had convinced them. The business side of music has always been really stupid to me, and the amount of money that people spend, I think, only benefits. It doesn't benefit the band. Like you'll see, you know, these bands spending all this money on studio time, or hiring this person or that person, or all of these things. And to me, I was kind of breaking down, doing some of the math, and I was like, you know, for about half of what we're going to, you know, we have to spend on this record, like I could actually buy a recording studio, and, you know, with enough gear and all this stuff, so we could make records the rest of our lives. And so I brought that up to the record label, and they were like, okay. And so they released a bunch of our budget, and we bought, you know, a studio and a bunch of equipment, mics and all this crap. And then the whole company quit at Island Def Jam. They got the new president. Our A&R guy got fired. Everything and we were just getting bounced around with all these other bands. And the guy's name was L.A. Reid. He's a pop. I don't even know if Island Def Jam's still around. I could care less.
Right.
But at the time, and it was everything was just bad. You know, nobody knew who are people to talk to with. Like, everybody's leaving, and it was just a disaster. And so I wrote him a letter. I was like, you know, please, can you just drop us? This is, you know, you're never gonna sell, you know, a Bronx record, you know, like you would a pop record, you know.
Please,
and they did
just drop us. That's hilarious.
And they did. And it was, you know, up until that point, because that's the way the music business worked at that time, was like, you know, the record label was an important part of your band. You know, now you don't need that at all. But, you know, and being able to, and not having anywhere to like put out your records or do anything was terrifying, you know, for some of us. And I was like, you know, and so, you know, we released, I don't know, our third record, which it's like, this is one of the reasons why I think the music business kind of failed, is because in our situation, they bought us a recording studio, paid for our album, and then dropped us.
Right. Like, where's the common sense behind, like, who else does things like that?
And it was, I mean, and in hindsight, it was super scary at the time, because, you know, as young bands, you feel like your identity, you know, resides in, you know, what label you're on, whatever, the stupidest shit ever.
Right.
But at the time, you know, that was, you know,
yeah, you don't know any better.
It was scary to, you know, to think about that. But what that did is we were able to make a ton of records for next to nothing. You know, and, you know, a bunch of us got to record. We recorded a ton of bands in there too. And it was just a really, really positive time. And, you know, it was able, you know, when our new bass player / trumpet player moved out, there was a little apartment above the studio. So he got to live there for free and kind of make sure, you know,
yeah.
And bands would come in and rent the place out. And it was just a really, really cool time. And, you know, we'd just be there all day, every day. It was like a big clubhouse, you know. But that really kind of set us up to be able to do, you know, things on our own, which I think anything you can do on your own, do it. Don't hire other people to do it, you know, figure it out, you know. And I think that, you know, that was one of those things. I thought we were doomed, but we came out okay.
I give you a lot of credit, because you've been really consistent in the one philosophy that you just mentioned, what you tell your kids. Do things for the purity of it, and it seems like it works out. Not easy.
It's, you know,
it works out.
It's not as you know, it's not as safe. It feels like, you know, a lot of times it's easy to make the safe play, but I don't know. I like I kind of have this dumb sort of, you know, block-headed, you know, kind of just head first into certain things, you know. I just kind of get it done.
No, but I don't know how safe it is, because I've done both of those things, and chasing something that's not authentic for me has never worked. That has never been like the safe bet.
Yeah.
You know, and I've chased business to earn money, and for a myriad of reasons, it felt as good as doing things that are like, you know, hey, this is enjoyable. This is fun. Let's do this. And I believe in us, or I believe in me. And, you know, let's play fucking mariachi music, because I really like it. I think we could do it. Yeah.
I mean, that's what I think, you know, and it's just, and that to me, I think now more than ever, you know, because the playing field is completely level for any band or any business or anything, that everybody has the same tools. They're all available to everybody. It's like, you know, how to use them that therein lies the art.
Right. Totally. But there's no reason that you can't get the information.
Exactly.
Sure, man.
Exactly.
Yeah. Really cool. Thanks, man. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about some gear for just a few minutes.
Totally.
What's your go-to guitar right now, and what other two would round out your top three?
This is actually a funny story.
Cool.
My go-to guitars right now are Gretsch Duo Jets.
Okay.
That were given to me by Gretsch because I designed a guitar for them.
Wow.
I still don't have one. and it's a custom shop. It was called the Gretsch Roadrunner. And you could, if you Google that, you'll see why it's a custom shop guitar, because it's probably the most expensive thing they can make. I worked on it with one of the custom shop guys, hired me out to do it. We designed it, and it's quite a bit different than what I started with, because it's what's called heavy relic. I don't really like heavy relic. I think, unless you do the heavy relicing.
Yeah.
But I did like the logo and the art and kind of all the stuff for that kind of got put together on it. And so there was a bit of discrepancy with payment, and so they floated me a bunch of guitars.
Okay.
So I'm playing them now. I subbed out the pickups. I want to give a shout out to my homie Curtis Novak, who builds me these pickups. And I think, I haven't played every pickup in the world, but when I play his, I'm like, man, these are amazing. And so he builds me they're coil tapped, and it's called, we call it the lip bucker. So it's half lipstick and half humbucker. So that's
wild. So
it's a humbucking lipstick, or a whatever you want to call it. He calls it the Jekyll and Hyde. So that's what I play. And it's just, I love it because it's just the amount of, it's almost having like a pedal, and switching through all the, different variations of pickups, and, taking it out of all the things. It's like, you can just really, they're just really, really, there's a lot of options, sonically, and I really like it. Plus they're chambered guitars, and that's my back likes that.
There you go. Well, I see you play. I see you play a lot of Gibsons as well, or you have in the past.
Same thing with that. I would replace the neck pickup with a lipstick in there, because it's just the fattest. Just, I don't even know how to describe it. It just sounds weird, and that's not my idea. I took that from this guy, John Reese. He's a great guitar player, plays in Rocket from the Crypt, Hot Snakes. We went on tour with them, and I was like, what is that? He's like, dude, you got to do it. And so
what is it? How does it sound different from like a humbucker?
It almost feels like it's an octave lower, and there's like, those lipstick pickups aren't really known for sustain, that came out of those Dan Electros, because they're basically Masonite guitars, and so there was just like this huge low end presence to it, and just this thunk, and it's hard to explain, but that is I would encourage anybody that has, a Les Paul that they, Frankenstein, or they want to do this to it or that. It's like, dude, throw that in there. And I was lucky enough to get one actually made for me, because once you do that, there's a gigantic hole where the humbucker was. There was there was a guitar company from Japan called Fujijin. Who made me one that doesn't have it was actually put together correctly, and it didn't have that gigantic hole. Really, really nice looking guitar.
That's cool, man.
Played a lot of for a long time. I did a lot of Dan Armstrong's. I really liked those guitars. When we recorded our first record with Gilby Clarke, he had one in the studio, and I was like, man, I've always wanted to play one of those. And so I did, and man, those things kick ass. And so I was able to get one off eBay, and a couple of years later, Ampeg actually reached out, and they gave me a couple of them, because they came out with like a wood version one, and it was hilarious. I had to go to this photo shoot with let's see, who was it? It was me, the Dave Ketching from Eagles of Death Metal, and Billy Bob Thornton.
Okay. I know his guitar player, actually, because he has this band that goes out of Florida. It's quite funny.
Yeah. It was a cast of characters on that photo shoot. We all like looking through the guitars, or doing something stupid. I don't remember what it was, but I was like, what is
that's rock and roll.
Yeah. Part of the journey, journey for sure. And then probably the only other guitar that, I don't know, I've been fortunate enough to get a lot of guitars. I played an L6S for a while, Gibson, which also is man, that thing is just the easiest guitar to play. And in that one, I have Curtis Novak pickups too, but it's two lipsticks instead of half humbucker. So it's a humbucking lipstick as well, but it's just kind of a different variation of kind of the pickups that I like. And the only other one that would probably be of interest would be on our second record. I borrowed a Burns split sound bass or split sound guitar, which Burns was a British company that ultimately I think got bought out by Baldwin. But they made this, it's a baritone guitar that the way the pickups work is you can set it so it will pick up, you know, the bottom three strings on this one pickup setting and the top three strings on this other pickup setting, in the sense that you could play bass for a while, then do some leads. But it belonged to Pat Smear from the Germs. And so we got, this is kind of a long story about how I got to get to this guitar I'm going to explain to you. So, you know, long story alert. But we were recording and our management company, or no, it was this guy, Ross Hogarth. He's like, hey, you know, they're making a movie about the Germs and they need a band to play Black Flag. And they want you guys to do it. I was like, oh, cool, man, of course. And so we went down to the set and Pat Smear was there kind of making sure everything's kind of correct, you know, about Darby's life and all of this stuff. And so, you know, we're talking and then like we go, and then we had to take a break because we had to go into Conway to record. I think Police Story was the song that we did in the movie. So we had to go cut it, you know, at the studio. So we were talking and Michael Beinhorn, who produced our second record, goes, hey, Pat's got this guitar that you got to borrow. It's this Burns bass, you know, split sound bass. And I was like, what the fuck is that? And so, you know, the next day we were back on the set and I was like, hey, Michael Beinhorn wanted me to ask you a question. He goes, let me guess, he wants you to borrow the split sound bass. And I was like, how'd you know? And he goes, because dude, he's been trying to buy that guitar off me for years. He goes, all those Hole records and Marilyn Manson records, like that guitar's all over those things, and it's his favorite thing, and I won't sell it to him. I knew he was going to say that.
That's so funny.
And so I used it on like one song or something, and but I couldn't find one online because I wanted to buy one and play it for live. So I didn't really like, it wasn't happening. I couldn't find one, and so I had this Rickenbacker 330. That I still play today, that I took the strings off of it and I needed a heavy, and I tuned it down to C, and I couldn't really get it to work because, you know, it was just, you know, with regular gauge strings. So I put acoustic strings on it.
Okay. And
that allowed me to detune it down to C, and I intonated it all. So I tried to make my own baritone guitar.
Right.
And still to this day, it's on every record we do. Everybody borrows it. It's like the raddest sounding thing. So if any of your, you know, viewers are down here, like if you're trying to change up something, dude, put acoustic strings on an electric guitar. It's like a whole new world.
That's wild, really cool. Man. I've never heard that in 850 interviews close to that. Wow.
It's really cool. So that would be, you know, make your own shit.
You told me that it's just one of the plugins on Logic, I think. But what guitar and amp combo do you typically play in Pounded by the Surf?
I originally used to play. I've been through a lot of different ones. Originally, Ampeg is Ampeg Gemini 2. That was an amp they made in the 70s, which is, I have to be honest with you, one of the greatest amps I've ever used in my entire life. I borrowed when we were working on, you know, it's just I didn't really know anything about surf amps. You know, I was like, and a friend of mine, Rob Schnapp, who's a really great, he produced our 5th record. He's a really great studio guy. he's like, you gotta do the Ampeg Gemini. And I was like, what the fuck's that? You know, and it has, you know, the best reverb I've heard through an amp. And it has this really cool, like the tremolo on it is like floor to ceiling, you know, bump, 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 you know, you can set it to that. But it's just a really weird thing, very simple point to point, you know, and it's just a really killer sounding, super versatile amp. And so I played a Tesco MJ2, I believe is the and it was just this Frankenstein's garbage. Like as with most Tesco guitars is like, it's like a wrestling match trying to play those things. We were playing in London and strangely enough, Gretsch Guitars was at our show at the venue because they had just come out with some new guitar, and so the Gretsch representative in London goes, "Hey, would you be interested in playing this White Falcon on stage to kind of promote the guitar?" And I was like, "What? Like, what's in it for me?"
Yeah, right.
And they're like, "Well, we're thinking about giving this guitar away." And I go, "Dude, if that guitar makes it into my hands at the end of the night, I'll play it on stage." It's like, "We'll see what we can do." And I was like, "All right."
Yeah,
so
why would you? I mean, that I never get that. Like, you know, fair means being fair to you and fair to the other guy.
Well, but the greatest thing was, dude, by the end of the night, the dude was just hammered. And he's like, "All right, man, just take it.
You're my bro."
And so it's like in Pounded by the Surf, that's what I play now because it actually stays in tune with the Bigsby because that's the sound. And then I would switch back and forth between an AC30 Custom Classic and a Super Reverb now is what I use.
Okay, cool.
Just all those.
That's more surf.
They're all made in the same factory out there in Corona, California.
Very cool. Man, I hope you get a chance to do another Pounded by the Surf. I really like that. Anybody who likes surf music, check out Pounded by the Surf. They got a studio record and a live record, which it's hard to recreate this music live, and the live record's fantastic.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah,
thank you. It's a lot of fun.
What's the last thing you've listened to recently, musically?
I'm not really a metal guy, but that new Gojira album fucking kicks ass. I've been listening to that, and I really like this guy. His name's Tycho. It's an instrumental dude, but he instrumental music is a weird one for me, but he puts it together like it's like he's a songwriter, and so there's like structure to it, and like the hooks are just huge. I really like him. Tycho. Tycho.
Okay.
And he's a really good artist too. I really like him. I like the War on Drugs. Because I like guitar.
They're like a DC band, aren't they?
Philly.
But
okay. There's like there's like I think there's like 5 guitar players in the band now. Yeah, it's great, dude.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, King Crimson has 3 drummers, so anything's possible, man.
Bring it on. That's like some Allman Brothers band shit.
Yeah. Tell me the funniest thing that's happened to you on stage.
Funniest thing that ever happened to me was we got the mariachi band got hired to play the Democratic National Convention.
That is so funny.
In Philly.
That's just funny right there.
Dude, but the greatest thing was it was like we got hired to play this party honoring Latinos in Congress, which there was one. And it's like it was great, dude. They hired predominantly white mariachi band.
That's hilarious, man. The irony of that with the one Congress guy. That's a Latino.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
No, it was a woman. I don't remember her name.
That's hilarious.
I don't know much about politics, but we were sitting there and we got introduced. The MC of the function was God, what's her name? She was on that Desperate Housewife show.
What's his was it Tony Parker's wife, the basketball player?
I think so.
Yeah,
I can't remember her name.
I know who you're talking about.
Anyway, she was like the MC, right? And like, so she's like, oh, you know, these guys, Mariachi el Bronx, you know, whatever they're going on. And there's like maybe 40 people here. There's all just like, no one knows really what to do. And it was like just like the lamest of the lame. And so then like we're right in the middle of the song and she comes up, she's like, wait, stop. You know, so she makes a stop the song. They're like, ladies and gentlemen, Nancy Pelosi just walked in the room and she supports Latinos in Congress. And I'm just like, do we really have to stop? And like, I'm sitting there just trying to keep it together. I'm just like, it's just like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, that's so funny, man.
Dude, we got paid like a truckload of money too. It was hilarious.
That's great. That's great. Hey, you need more shows like that, right?
Yeah, hilarious. But like Secret Service not Secret Service, but maybe there was whatever the security was like pretty intense. But
did you have to get like approved individually to get in there or something?
It was all kinds of crazy stuff. But, you know, it was really interesting because, you know, if you've ever been to Philly, it's pretty tight quarters in there. And, you know, with all of, you know, everybody political coming into that area, I was like, and, you know, we had 2 black SUVs. And I'm like, dude, you know, tinted out windows. That's what they got us to go from place to place with all of our crap. I was like, dude, we just look like we're up to no good. And so one of the most interesting things, I was like, how are they going to do security for this? And you know what? Want to know what they had? They had about 250 cops on mountain bikes riding around looking into people's windows all throughout the streets. It was crazy.
That is weird.
And, yeah, but I was like, it's actually a pretty good idea.
Wow.
Yeah. And I don't think anything happened, but it was pretty crazy to see. There's mountain bike dudes in green vests everywhere.
That's pretty common here in Florida. You got guys on mountain bikes all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty common. That's so funny though. Would you ever think you'd be playing Mariachi el Bronx, Democratic National Committee? How funny is that, man?
No, but that band took us in a lot of different places. You know, it's like we went on tour with some big bands. Like we went on tour with Dave Matthews Band for a while.
That's actually a good match.
Yeah, we went on tour with the Killers for a while. We were on tour with the Foo Fighters. All kinds of people. It's crazy. It's really fun times. They were good.
That's wonderful,
good years.
man. Well, man, you're a great band. You deserve all of
thanks.
It, man. Top 3 Desert Island discs, just for this moment.
An instructional CD on how to survive in the desert.
Really?
How to dig for water, eat bugs, what plants will kill you. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I would probably say that's a tough one.
It is.
It's a tough one. I think one of the best like recorded I really like live records because I feel like that's sort of the, you know, the gist of the bands. But the Who Live at Leeds, I think is just
fucking amazing, man.
Like, what a fuck, like that's better than any of their studio records.
Man, and when that finally came out, the whole concert, you know, for years they had it. It was like it was a vinyl with like 5 songs on it. And then it finally came out with the whole show. That's a great record.
But it sounds good too. Like it sounds incredible. I really like that. Maybe we'll stick with the live thing. I would always buy, what's it called? The place in San Francisco, the club. Like all of the bands in the 70s, the Fillmore. Anytime I would ever see a Live at the Fillmore record, I would always buy it. And they're all super killer. But I really liked the Allman Brothers Band, Live at the Fillmore. I think that was a pretty solid one. I feel like I need to even this out with something that's a little gnarlier,
little edgy. Yeah, man, I'm waiting.
A little edgy. How about Suicidal Tendencies, Lights, Camera, Revolution?
Awesome.
I love Suicidal Tendencies.
Tell me what's the best decision you ever made?
Ooh. Start a family.
Oh, I think you said sorry, fam. Start a family.
Oh, start a family.
Okay, yeah. That's nice.
I love family stuff, and spending time with them is, that's something that it's just it's funny. Like all the cliches are true that you hear that goes by fast. They change overnight. And which they do, but it's like, because of having a family, I think it really opens you up to doing a lot of different things in life, because you get into what your kids are into, and never in a million years would I go fucking riding dirt bikes, but now that we're doing that, it's like, we have these ripping trips out to the desert. We just go for days, and it's super fun. And just things with my daughter, we'd go rock collecting in gyms, and, she's super into fashion and all these things. And you're just like, and it's just really fun. We have a really good time together as a family. So I really, really appreciate them and really love doing this,
That's awesome. And let me tell you, man, and like when they're in their mid-20s, that's when you start getting that back.
Yeah. Because
it's a tough job being a parent, but once they're in that stage, you get feedback that thank you so much, or that was so much fun, or I really appreciate, they get the gratitude, which is nice,
I can't wait for that days, because now it's like,
yeah, it's kind of a thankless job for a long time. It's difficult. Most important things you've learned about yourself.
I hate driving. Traffic.
Sure.
Traffic is I can't deal with it, man. I think I was one of the things that I think I'm good at is I feel that I have a work ethic, and that to me is, I think you can do anything in life if you do have a work ethic, and that's I try to instill that in my children, because that to me I think is at the base of every single thing you want to do. It's like, if you just go out there and just work at it, it'll happen, and if you don't, like, there's a lot of people that I know, a lot of people that they're just fucking lazy, they want things to happen, and they just kind of sit around waiting for things to happen. And it's like,
it's not how it works.
I don't think so. I think you have to go out there and make things happen for yourself, and do things on your own, and follow, and fail,
Man,
like,
I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah. I think work ethic is critical.
I hope my kids break the law before they're 18.
Yeah, I think work ethic is critical for sure, man. Something or someone you miss from your childhood?
My grandfather. He was on my father's side, my dad's dad. He was, one of those guys that kind of lit up the room, and everybody knew him. Even when he was in assisted living, all the ladies would be over at his place, and he was like that guy,
Yeah.
And just super witty. Like, everybody loved him, and he was the guy that got me my first guitar, my Washburn acoustic, and he was just, always had jokes. He was always there for us, took care of his family, and everybody misses him, not just me, but he was a really, really special person.
That's nice, man. That's nice.
He was a crazy dude too. He was a tail gunner in the war, and a B-52 bomber got shot out of the back of the plane. Like,
holy crap.
Yeah, would never fly after that. I don't blame him either. But then he went from that and he became a narcotics officer. And
wow.
So he just, yeah. And it was just like, I remember he always carried a gun. I was just like, oh, whoa.
Where was this? This was in San Fran? Where
no, Denver, Colorado.
Denver, Colorado. Wow. Yeah. That's really cool, man.
Crazy. Well, yeah, he was a really good dude, man.
Tell me the most important thing your dad taught you.
That learning what you don't like is just as important as what you like. Learn, like doing things, like who gives a fuck if you don't like it, or if you didn't work out, now you learned something, you know, now you don't do that again, you know, don't waste your time, you know. And there's like, don't be bummed out that, you know, you didn't like it or didn't work out. You know, it's like, I think you can take a lesson away from everything and, you know, focus your energy someplace else. It's never bad. It's just, you learn about yourself.
That's a good lesson for sure, man. How about your mom? Most important thing she taught you?
Not to talk back.
It's a punk rocker. You have any non-musical superpowers, Joby?
I wouldn't say superpowers. I have, there's things I enjoy. I enjoy cooking of all things.
Number one hobby amongst musicians.
Really?
Number one.
Huh.
Number one. Yeah. That's really wild.
Yeah. It's something I look forward to every night. You know, I don't know. I try to make things that taste good and are nutritious.
What's your forte? What's your favorite thing to cook? Or what's other people's favorite thing that you cook?
I don't know. I just usually I eat a lot of fish. I don't. People like that. I could do it a million different ways. It's kind of like whatever. We're also spoiled too in California because there's everything is fresh and there's nothing seasonal. You know, it's like you can get, you know, and so we eat a shitload of just fresh food, vegetables and stuff like that. You know, try to stay away from anything that comes in a package, which is 99% impossible when you have kids.
Yeah, but you'd be surprised, man. If you like, I was always a healthy eater. None of my kids eat garbage. Once in a while they do, but by and large, they're all adults now. I'm really happy that they're like that. Of course, you know, they eat pretty healthy.
I think there's just a lot more information out there now that, like, you know, it's like, hey man, you know, this stuff's like, it may taste good, but I don't know.
Yeah. What's in it? Oh yeah, totally, man. Favorite place you've traveled? You've been all over.
My ancestry is Norway, so I have a really good connection with up there. And I think that land is so beautiful and raw. And you know, the thing that blew my mind about going to Norway or, you know, any of Northern Europe is that motherfuckers have lived there for a long time. Yeah. And like, it's like, dude, the sun doesn't come out or the sun doesn't go down.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like in the modern age, that is what it is. But if you think about like people that lived in, you know, caves and had fire and had to forage for food, it's like, dude, what a hard life that must have been. And I can't imagine, you know, like even going to Iceland, like that was like one of the craziest places ever.
In what way?
You know, just that people can survive there, you know, and it's just like, I think I would encourage anybody, and I do encourage anybody, that if traveling, I think it gives you perspective on how good you have it versus, or how better things could be, you know. And it's just different countries do different things differently, you know, and it just to give you perspective. And I think it makes you really appreciate certain things. And then at the same time, it makes you wish that things were different. And I was like, oh man, that'd be cool if, you know, like I could go to the hospital for free.
Yeah. Right. Right. Totally.
Or, you know, oh man, I wish America had like the Euro pass so I could take a train everywhere, you know, things like that, you know. But then I'm also thankful that, you know, I live in sunshine, you know, 360 days a year, you know.
Sure.
And I'm thankful that I do have a car sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
Things like that, you know. Just gives you sort of just a good balance of not taking things for granted.
Yeah, I agree with you. 3 more questions, man. And thank you for everything. You're like a super intelligent guy. I really enjoyed talking with you. Thank you, man.
Oh, thanks, man.
Tell me the toughest decision you had to make or most difficult thing you've had to do.
Hmm. I don't know. Probably letting within being a band, you kind of have this team of people that you put together. I don't know, like your manager, your booking agent, or whatever, like these people that, you talk constantly and you're making plans and you're doing this and you're doing that. And there comes a time when that's just not working out anymore. And so having to sever relationships, I think professionally, is a really difficult thing to do for me, because I'm envious of those bands that have always had the same manager or the same, you know what I mean? And it's like, we've gone through a few of them, and to have to make that call and to let somebody off the hook is always been tough, for me. Sure. And it's happened a couple of times, ultimately it generally works out for the best, but I hate doing that. That's tough.
That's not fun at all. Biggest change in your personality over the last 10 years, Joby, and how much of that has been intentional and how much has just been a natural part of aging?
That's probably a little bit of both. I think as you grow up, you stop doing as much dumb shit as you did when you were a kid.
Hopefully.
So I think there's a natural progression. I think people grow up, and obviously, my priorities have changed, from, let's go just fucking rock and roll all night, get loaded and fucking go crazy. Now it's like, I got to take my kids to school in the morning.
Funny how that happens.
So I think a little bit of both. You make better decisions or things because you have to, and then a lot of it too is just kind of realizing, like, you know what, I could probably be done with, this chapter of my life is kind of not really gonna be conducive to really anything from here on out.
I hear you, man. Any final words of wisdom?
Be cool
to right people. On, man. Be cool and, to people.
I think that's 90% of it. I was just a funny story. We were camping, and like whenever I go camping, or whenever people go camping, usually, like your clothes get all dirty and fucked up, or if you're fishing, you get, I don't know, whatever, salmon eggs or something, whatever, you're spilling shit, whatever, you're in the dirt, and so I always like wear our merchandise, like Bronx stuff, like whenever we do outdoor activities or whatever, just because I don't give a fuck if it gets trashed,
Sure.
And so, like, I think I had like a Bronx hat on or something, and this dude pulls up next to us and in his trailer, and we were camping next to us, and it's like, oh man, cool, the Bronx, man. Have you heard those 2 new songs that they put out? And I was like, yeah, it's like, and he goes, oh shit. He goes, you're the guitar player, dude. And we just, I'm like, and I was like, what's up, man? I go, yeah, dude. I go, and he goes, oh man, I can't wait to hear the record. And I was like, what's your email address? And so I sent it to him.
Oh, that was nice.
Whatever.
You, man.
I was just like, check it out. It turns out, like, we were fishing at this lake, and he was, we just talked, we're having some drinks, whatever, and he turns out he makes these insane bass lures, and like these, they cost like $200 or something for like a lure. I can't even like fathom spending that much money on a lure, but they're the way I don't really know much about fishing, but anyway, so he's like, this crazy guy, and so he takes me out and my son on his boat, and we just like rushing bass, and it was just and thanks for me sending him our record, and so, and it was just like, so I and still talk, we became friends, and and hooked us up with like all this crazy fishing gear, gave me like this rad pole, and my son all this stuff, and it was just a really, really awesome sort of be cool to people. And you never know what's going to happen.
That's nice, man. I love bass fishing, so that's I can appreciate. Yeah, it's so much when you're catching it, and they're big, hardy fish, and even the small ones give you a hell of a fight, man. You know, they're just hardy fish. That's awesome, man.
It definitely feels like the fish is a lot bigger.
Oh yeah, totally.
When you bring it in,
absolutely. Hey man, let me tell people where to find you and what you got going on. It's Joby Ford from the Bronx. I would love everybody to check out the Bronx's website. It's the Bronx, BRONXXX.com. The new album is Bronx VI. It's a very guitar heavy record, and it's everything about it is good. The songs are good. The mix is phenomenal. And you can hear everything. It's a great record. Also check out Mariachi El Bronx, coolest fucking band ever. I had no idea what to expect. And I was thinking, well, before I listened to the band, I was like, well, this is, what does everybody think? This is probably like when you go to the Mexican restaurant, right? That's what people think. Totally. I was in love with the albums are great. It's just phenomenal. Man. I was listening when I went out for my walk. I was listening to it. It was so freaking cool, man.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for putting the music out. Pounded by the Surf, great surf band. They have a studio album alive, and the Drips is the little known secret of Joby. And also check out Joby's website. It's Joby, JOBYJ Ford.com. He's got tons of really cool artwork on there, stuff that he's done in graphic design, photographs. It's like a really cool repository of his own creative stuff. There's a lot of good stuff on there. And if you want to get in contact with Joby to have him work on a project or do some design for you or your band, there's a contact form on there where you could reach out. Also Instagram, the Bronx O Vision. Is that right? Can I read?
Let's see, it's Bronx O Vision.
Yeah, Bronx O Vision.
It's like Wonka Vision. Remember Wonka Vision?
Yeah, Bronx O Vision. Willy Wonka. Bronx O Vision, and also Joby's on Instagram. This one I'm not even going to ask. Touch Douglas.
It's inside joke from back in the day.
Yeah, man. Find Joby on Instagram. Touch Douglas, DOUGLESS. And hopefully we'll see the Bronx on tour. Yeah, they'll be at festivals hopefully at the end of this year, and 2022 a full-on tour.
Yes.
Is there anything else that I forgot or I left out?
That's it, man.
All right. Poundedbythesurf.com is the website. Sorry. No, I
said that's good, man. You touched everything.
Good. Cool. And they got tons of cool merch on there too that Joby put together. Man, thank you for everything. I really appreciate your time. This was great.
Thank you too, Craig. Absolutely. I've been eyeballing those guitars back there. It's good stuff.
If I could play each one of them this much, this is percentage as good as you can, I'd be all right. Hang on 1 second. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, share it on your social media channels. We appreciate your support. Thanks very much to Joby J. Ford. Check out Joby and the Bronx. If you haven't gotten hip to them, great band. Mariachi El Bronx, Pounded by the Surf, the Drips. Check them all out. It's really good music. And most important, man, remember that happiness is a choice. So choose wisely. Be nice, go play a guitar, and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I am out. Joby, thank you so much, brother.
Thank you, Craig.